This to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in! What a comeback!
All right, welcome back to another episode of the 28-3 podcast. Happy to be coming to you after a big Saints win in Indy, 38-27 over the Colts. Much needed win. Saw a lot of great things out of the offense. I mean, they finally came to life. Rashid Shaheed just putting up Randy Moss-like numbers in his efforts. Kamara looking good, offensive line looking good. Defense, like we said, did just enough. There might be some concerns that we talk about later on in this episode, but all in all, leading up to this, man, the negativity was hot. Saints Twitter streets were hot, but nothing cures all that like a win. And damn it, like we said before, we're going to enjoy it while it lasts. Doesn't mean we're not going to talk about things that need to be talked about, but we're going to enjoy the win while we have it. So speaking of, some of the things we liked, didn't like, Max, what you got on this one?
Obviously, things we liked. I think we can all agree the offense falls under that category. First time this year that they had the full complement of players, whether it was injuries or suspensions beforehand. Everybody was there. Having Juwan Johnson there, having Kamara, Kendre Miller, Jamal Williams. Obviously, the offensive line not at full strength, but it's performing better with this lineup than we've seen. Touching on what you said about the Twitter streets, dude, it was funny. Like scrolling through and seeing the different reactions to different plays. Because full disclosure, coming back from the beach, Nick and I were watching the game on his phone in the car. As we're doing 90,
yep.
And
not me. Well, yeah, Casey was driving. I was watching myself.
Yeah. It was just funny though, like seeing at the beginning of the game, when we were down, and you could tell who I guess is in the blame Carr camp and who is in the blame Olave camp, who's in the blame Carmichael camp. It's just so funny seeing it because there were different interpretations of plays that were happening. There was a incomplete pass to Michael Thomas on a slant, and depending on who you're following at this point, it's like, oh man, that's a terrible pass by Carr, awful pass, doing the same shit. And then it's somebody else right above him saying like, that route was a little sloppy. It looks like he slipped. Pass was right there. And it's just funny seeing how people have their sides. And, you're going to see it the rest of the season, I think.
We did it.
Well, people are firmly dug in on it. And it's
Max immediately said bad pass. I was like, was it? It looked like it hit both his hands. And then you look at it again, and you see Thomas kind of stumble slightly, and it hits both his hands, but he's kind of falling down. So difficult. Not his fault. I wouldn't call it a drop, but it wasn't a bad pass. It was right on the money.
Right.
I think we all just have our instinct to blame whoever we feel is the biggest
well,
culprit.
Especially when things aren't going well. I mean, like being down 17-7 at that point, any play when the Colts are winning, up until we took the lead, every play is viewed with that lens of who you don't like on the team.
Correct.
So once we start bombing it down the field to Shaheed, at least talk about Carr's throws to Shaheed when he was open, Taysom threw the one when Shaheed was in double coverage, but made a hell of a play to maintain possession of the ball going to the ground before it was just taken away from him. But you viewed it through a lens of like, being pissed off. And so nothing cures that kind of thinking like a win, because I think you mentioned to Max is that after the game, when the final box score hits and you get to see the whole product of play statistically, people looked at Derek Carr's stats and were like, damn, Carr had a good game. And
Carr had an amazing game.
And so it's kind of like the Carr haters were like, well, I mean, shit, he played his ass off. And then also like, I think the people who just want to dog an Olave no matter what kind of still got to do that, especially since he had that touchdown drop off his helmet. But I think overall, Olave still played pretty well.
I would disagree completely
I would disagree
on
with that.
Yeah.
He had a few mistakes, of course, but like he was closer. I think he
has not played well in about 3.5-4 weeks.
I think he made a step forward I don't think he regressed.
Well, there were two plays that stand out. There's the one where he caught the ball going to the sideline.
Ran straight out of bounds
and didn't realize that the guy trailing him had fallen down.
Right.
It left a good 10, 15, maybe more yards on the field just by sprinting out of bounds to preserve his body. So and then there's obviously the should have been touchdown pass that bounced right off his face mask.
And that was the obvious. But you don't think the one where he went out of bounds, you don't think his momentum was carrying him?
No, absolutely not.
He had plenty of time to turn that off.
Okay.
The one in his face, my biggest problem with that is that happens. We all know that. But that play was so clearly designed for him. That ball's coming to him 100% of the time. That play design was incredible if you go watch it again. It was... I think they run him right into Thomas's route.
He deliberately stops without blocking anybody, so it's not a pick play.
Right.
And then once he sees the guy clear, but defense must have been in a zone or whatever it was. Like he saw his cue and then just takes off.
Yeah. They saw something in film where they knew that play was going to work.
Yeah.
He turned around late, it felt like to me.
Well, I don't know what it was because it was like I watched it again and you could see his eyes hit the sideline of the QB. I don't know.
Well, even AK said some of the press conference like, I don't know what Chris saw in that play. I'm going to have to talk to him. It's like that play was so clearly drawn up like, we're going to run this play. Yeah. This is an Olave play. We're going to have Carr just stare that route down where Thomas was coming into the play, and he's going to slip between that. I believe it was a safety in a corner. I didn't go back and check that, but he splits it. He's wide open. That play's coming to him the whole way. I just don't understand how you don't pick that ball up.
I think what I mean with the Olave take is that here's what I was thinking before we even got here tonight, and that was when Carr was just not doing great, or I guess put it, from week one to now, it was he would show on a few good plays, he would just make that pass, just zing it in there, hit a guy downfield the way he's supposed to, but then somewhere else in the game, he's just making an inexplicable play. And his quality of play was just completely up and down. I think Olave went from the Jags game where it was questioning his entire play, his entire effort, to now this game where he had bright spots, but then they were followed with like these complete lowlights. So it's now him looking like he showed something, but then he showed enough negative. There's
something clearly going on as far as whether he's in his own head, he's just in a funk, he's in a slump, whatever you want to call it. Like something's going on, and it's okay for us to talk about that without being putting it under the lens of this guy sucks and whatever. Like we all want to see Olave succeed.
I text Max today.
Well, we all want to see Derek Carr succeed.
If Olave doesn't turn it around, I don't think we can go. We need him to turn it around.
Yeah.
I didn't see what you saw in the positives. I saw mostly negatives. But that's all up to everyone's opinion. I think he's been in a 4-game funk that is the worst we've ever seen him play.
Yeah.
And I don't really have an explanation for it other than maybe it is mental. Maybe it's just he's in a slump and, it's like an 0 for 23 in baseball and you just can't get out of it until something really good happens. We just need something. I was telling Max while we were driving in the car, I hope they throw a deep ball while we're up double digits here just to get him on track. Like, just give him another chance. Let's give him a big something. Play. Yeah.
He needs a layup. You know what I mean? Like, he needs to get, like, Shaheed running free behind the secondary. He needs one of those.
Give him the heat check.
And basically. Look, he had one of those. The one that bounced off his helmet.
Yeah.
That's a walk-in touchdown.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the thing that gets him out of the slump.
Right.
And we want him out of the slump because, like Nick said, we're going to need him at some point this season if this team is going to do anything once we get to the back half of the year and towards the playoffs. Yeah. Like, he's going to have to make a play.
Yeah, I think it's like we said last episode and other times before that. It's like you saw other guys kind of let loose and play more free. I think Carr played more free. I think he just, when he saw something, he put it there. The angle route to Kamara for the first touchdown is a great example for me. It was like we've seen Carr, whether there's a guy on a slant or a crosser, we've seen him be inaccurate. Maybe it's a catch, but the guy has to catch it on his own back shoulder, has to stop his momentum, and then gets tackled. With that AK angle route, rewatching that, he hits him right in stride to where Kamara can keep running, and then Kamara has to make the cut to avoid contact. But Carr put it in a spot where Kamara was at least able to do something with it, as opposed to have to stop, make a from 0 mile per hour.
Carr was fantastic, and look, I've given Carr a fair share of shit over the last couple of weeks, whether it's on the air here with you guys or whether it's via text message with y'all. And it's I got to give him his due. He looked fantastic yesterday.
Yeah,
anyone who's picking nits on him yesterday, you're really looking for something at this point.
I mean, you're going to take the quarterback who has, by definition, the most touches out of any offensive player. You're going to take the few of his touches that weren't good. It's like he had, he was 19 of 27. Okay, so you're going to take 8 incompletions and then, overanalyze or dissect those. Sure, go ahead.
3 of them bounced off our hands.
Right. So it's like if you want to get nitpicky on Carr in this game, and everybody's had every right to in other games where he's just made, the inexplicable.
Yeah.
He didn't have the bonehead interception this game. He didn't have the sail it out of the back of the end zone play this game, which have been like staples of him so far this season. But I think you saw Carr kind of just take what the defense was giving him, which sometimes meant you hear that phrase and sometimes you think, oh, take what the defense gives you, so we're just going to check down all day. No, the defense gave him some long, deep shots, and he took them. And it was good to see. He wasn't pressing. I think when we go back to Olave, a guy like him in this situation, I think he's just really afraid not to screw up. And until he can kind of get that monkey off his back and just play a little bit more free, I think we're going to see kind of those hesitation type trying to be too perfect type mistakes. I think his day's coming. I truly believe that he is that good of a player. I don't think it's some like we got a bad apple type of draft pick. I know everyone hates that we traded up to get him, but at this point, he's here, so we may as well hope that he does well. I think it's coming. He didn't obviously do his best this past game, but I saw some bright spots. But moving on from him, Carr.
Let me say this though. I still like to trade up to get him.
Yeah.
I know Nick was a huge. He was against it from day one.
To be fair, I'm against all heavy trade-ups.
Yep.
The draft, to me, is the most important thing in the game now because of the salary cap.
Right.
These are players that play for very low money. I value it a lot. And the more chances you have to hit on players, especially with our history of being way better in the middle and late rounds than we are in the beginning of the draft, I just hate trading multiple picks for anyone. It's not an attack on Olave. If we were sitting at that 11 spot and we took Olave, I'm totally good with it. It's the fact that we're giving up multiple players to get one is the part that I really don't like. And we've proven it doesn't work for us.
Yeah, and the thing is, I agree with you on that. Like, my philosophy would be to get as many, lottery tickets as possible. It could basically draft picks or lottery tickets. And if I were running the Saints, I'd load up on draft picks. Give me as many of them as you can. But given what we know about Mickey Loomis, and he's been here for damn near 20 years at this point, we know that is not what he wants to do. Right. The Saints have never valued draft picks.
And I call it a weakness.
Right.
A weakness.
They always throw them away on whether it's, what's his name, Tommy Stevens, when just to piss off a rival, an
who got him anyway?
Rival.
But who got him anyway?
That's the scary thing to me. I'm not saying that it's not that circular of an argument to say, oh, we're shit at drafting overall, so therefore we should not have draft picks. Like, no, we should give ourselves as many chances to succeed as possible.
Well, we're good at the mid to late round picks.
We are.
Like, it's funny, we've all talked about Jordan Howden, who's a mid-round defensive back this year. We all said, well, that's a slam dunk. He'll end up contributing his rookie year. And lo and behold, he's contributing his rookie year because the Saints can evaluate defensive backs in the day 2 and day 3 better than anybody. But back to my original point about Olave, I was a huge fan of it because knowing that the Saints are the team that likes to trade up and not trade back, I'm like, if we're going to trade up, let's go get this guy because I know, in my mind, I know he's going to be a good NFL player.
He's worth going up there to get.
Right. Now, how good he's going to be is the question. Sure. And now if you look at Saints Twitter right now, these people think this guy's already arrived and he's fucking prime Jerry Rice. The reality is he's a good player right now. That's it. He is just a good player. People saying he's a great player or he is a superstar,
we don't know.
Need to wake the fuck up because he has not proven shit.
Right. We don't know that. We
don't know that yet.
Could he be?
Could he?
Sure. Maybe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is he? No.
Right. You can't say he
emphatically,
is.
no.
Right.
He is not.
You cannot make a case that he's a top 10, top 15 wide receiver. There's
can't.
no case.
There's no case for it.
Shit, there were people on Twitter yesterday saying, "Oh man, Olave really our WR3."
Honestly, at this point,
and Max, we gave Max some shit on a. I don't think anyone listening to this would have even heard it, but on the COVID episode.
This whole thing is funny to me.
Like Max was sitting there, half
with COVID and drunk.
Half of Max was sitting there on a Zoom screen for us saying Rashid might be her, Olave might not even be her top 2 guy.
Well, he said Shaheed's the best, going to be the best.
And yeah,
Shaheed has people need to pause on that. Shaheed did the same route 3 times and won, and he is incredible at it.
But
that does not make a complete wide receiver.
No one said he's a complete wide receiver.
I mean,
he's a one-trick pony. But that one trick is pretty fucking awesome.
But it doesn't make you a better player than Olave or Thomas.
It can make you a better player. It doesn't make you a better receiver.
He is a wide receiver.
He has executed what is asked of him better than Olave this
and he's
year.
A wide receiver.
And he also did something that you value a lot there, Nick. He made a contested catch in
and
double coverage.
And he's done it in the past.
And the only guy who doesn't is Olave.
So
on our team, Mike Thomas makes contested catch after contested catch.
So you're saying you're with Max?
No, I don't think Shaheed is a better player than Olave. I think.
Let's go back to what I actually said. I didn't say he was a better player. I said the potential is there for him to have a better career than Olave.
Now you sound like me, where you're taking the words that I said were.
I'm going to say what I said. So
we know what you're saying. That's why you backtracked on it heavily when you sobered up.
Go ahead.
I want to talk real quick. Max and I were talking about Carr on the. I think either driving or texting today. Obviously, I've been a little bit of a Carr apologist. I believe that's the guy we should have gone and got from our options that were out there.
We all wanted him.
No, but I've been more than you guys. And
you're making more excuses for him than we have.
Right, that's what I mean. I'm apologizing for everything that's happened and not blaming Carr. That's exactly what I've been doing.
When you should have been.
Maybe. And I'm not saying he's been perfect, but he's had very little support, in my opinion, too. So no one's made it easy on him either. The offensive line the first 4 or 5 games was atrocious. Olave, who knows what's going on in the last 4 games. Kamara out the first 3 games. There's just been a lot of stuff.
You mean the last 4 before this one? Because I was going to shift to the offensive line.
Well, we'll get to that because we all talked about it last pod. And I said that you let's go to that right now. You talked about hope and the things I said about hope. Offense has started gaining yards. Yep. Offensive line has looked better.
Yeah.
So if that trend continued and they just stopped making mistakes in the most crucial plays of the game, things could change. Now, the debate Max and I were having, I said that's ceiling Carr we saw yesterday. I'm his biggest fan, but that was the best you will ever see Derek Carr.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that.
It was so good. We're not going to see. I don't want people to get freaked. Like this is what we're going to see from now on. That was so good. That performance might happen once more this year.
You can't expect much better than that.
Correct. That's how good it was.
Yeah.
So we need to temper that expectation for those, Carr fans. I guess in my boat,
Carr apologists.
Yeah. The Carr army that's against him is going to say this was a lucky game, a beat up secondary. The team's not that good. That's a good team. Okay, the secondary was beat up. Let's be honest about it.
But they're well coached.
Yeah, it's a good team and with really great players all over the field. That linebacker who kept going into that game, he's already got 100 tackles this year.
Yeah.
That guy's a beast.
44.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And then Leonard's unbelievable player. They've got a ton of talent. So what I want to do is for all of us to discuss. We talked before the season started. How long does it take this offense to get going? When will we feel good about the offense? So we're almost halfway. We're essentially halfway in the season.
Right.
Yeah.
Derek Carr today, yards per game. It's looked bad, right? We're all saying how Carr bad.
It hasn't passed the eye test, right?
10th in the league in yards per game. He's 17th in QBR. He has 4 interceptions, which is the 3rd fewest of any quarterback who's played at least 6 games. That's a middle-of-the-road quarterback.
Which is what we said.
That's what that is.
We needed.
Which is all we said we needed.
Yeah.
As a team, 2 double-digit wins, 1 double-digit loss. Right? So 2 excellent performances, 1 terrible performance. 2 and 3 in close games. In the losses, we had the group he missed with a minute left. Maybe they go down and score a field goal. Maybe they don't if he makes it. We don't know. Foster drop. And the Houston game where Groupie missed 2 field goals that forced us to have a touchdown at the end instead of a field goal. That's the 3 one-score games we lost. Is that terrible? Yes. I think there was an argument we all talked about is like, that's what bad teams do. They mess up when it counts. That's true. But also, could it just be bad luck? It could be. We don't know. That's what the rest of the season's going to tell us. Does this team rebound from that and it doesn't affect them? Do they get better at that? I think that's where we're talking about. This week was incredible. I think it was 4 for 5 in the red zone. I saw somebody post 3 for 4, but I believe it was 4 for 5 because both Kamara touchdowns, the Taysom touchdown.
But there's also the one where they were kneeling out the clock at the end.
So right, and that's the one miss. That's the one miss.
Right, 100% that mattered. I mean, besides because the Shaheed touchdown was the only non-red zone touchdown.
Right.
And, you're talking to the guy who actually predicted us to score 4 offensive touchdowns.
Right, which is awesome.
The last pod. But
we all went on board going behind the offense this week. We took a risk. We all ended up right.
I mean, you and I cleaned up on bets on Carr, so we were all in on it.
Max and I were texting about this, so I'm not going to ask Max this. Corey, where is our offense rank in the league in yards per game? Our offense as a whole.
Oh, I mean, well, shit. We just had our third 400-plus yard game. I mean, so it's got to be top 10 based on yardage.
12th in yards.
Okay, close.
16th in points. 21.4 a game. Defense, I mean, between the Jags game and this one, I think we've kind of taken a step back. I mean, defense might be within the top 15, but not top 10. 5th in yards, 9th in points. Damn, okay. Well, good on yards. Yeah, we had some of those games were really still good on points. Top 10 points, 9th. And that's with 2. Do we have 2 pick six? We have 1 pick six. Didn't we give up another? Did we give up another defense? Yeah, no.
Well, here's the thing.
One more.
Yeah.
AK, rushing yards per game since he's come back. 15th in the league.
Okay.
39 catches, leads all running backs.
I think I heard it on the broadcast yesterday. He's actually 2nd in the league in receptions.
Since he came in. Right. Olave's pace, 94 catches for almost 1,100 yards. Michael Thomas, 81, on pace for 933, which I think is exactly where all 3 of us had him. Shaheed on pace for 49 for right at 1,000.
Yep.
I give you those stats, and you didn't watch football. How do you feel about the Saints' last 9 games of the season?
Well, I mean, if we're looking at stats, I'd say that sounds great. But I mean, I'm not trying to just pick an argument with you, but I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is why stats can only say so much. Because what stands out to me is that while we should be hearing all those things and looking at those stats and be thinking, damn, good, that's great. What great marks.
It's not great. It's 4-4, but
the record's 4-4. That's what I'm saying. But when you talk about stats like that, you should be thinking that paints the picture of a complete team. That paints the picture of people who are performing and executing and all this stuff. But as someone who has watched every game, it almost kind of pisses me off more because it shows how much we've been wasting with the failed red zone. The red zone woes to this point, except for this past game.
I'm getting at, just real quick, I wasn't trying to say this is excellent. What I'm saying is it's Carr in a new system. We all talked about if you take the football out of it, we all talked about how long the struggle was going to be to get it together. Yeah. So let's say it took 3 extra weeks than we thought. Some people maybe thought it would take 2 games, 4 games, whatever it is.
Right.
We're 8 in. We have struggled. There's no debating that. It hasn't been perfect. It hasn't been even good in a bunch of games, especially in the red zone and things you're talking about.
Right.
But if I'd have told you this before the season, it's like, hey, we come out of the first 8, the offense is on a 3-game, 400-plus yard span. We're 4-4, hadn't been awesome. I think you'd feel pretty good. But having watched what we watched, we don't feel as good. Does that make sense?
Because we saw it.
Right.
It wasn't good.
I'm saying it's a little overreaction because those 3 one-score games we could have won. We also could have lost the 2 that we did win. But what we got in Carr that I think we didn't have in Dalton, for those people liking to put those 2 things together, is the big throw to end games. Mm-hmm. Shaheed in 3 games. Those were 40 to 60-yard passes in the air in those 3 games.
Yeah.
Dimes.
That's
the difference.
If you have a kill, if you're a team with a kill shot like Rashid can be, you use it and you don't apologize for it. You take it.
But you have a guy that can get it there.
Yeah, exactly.
He is not Joe Burrow. He is not Pat Mahomes. We need to get. Right. He is not Drew Brees. That is not going to happen.
Right.
But it's a guy who doesn't panic at the end of games. He's very good at it.
So
What else has been his strong suit since he's been in the NFL is the fourth quarter.
yeah.
Right.
So here's what I have to say as a whole. I think the takeaway from that for me is what has been driving me this whole season about, like, what is it that if someone asks me, like, what is it that you want to see with this team? I don't care if our stats were shit if we had a better record. Now, like,
The Jets care. You would care. The Jets
to
care.
a degree.
They're posting punting highlights when they won 13-10.
Well, no,
They're not
but-
happy.
Because here's what I need to see. Because you ask, you posed a question that we all had. How long will it be before we see this offense get it together? And as good as this past week was, and again, I'm enjoying the hell out of this win. I am. I don't know yet whether we have it together, and that is because I have yet to see us do it again. It's consistency. The word that this team has to revolve around, or us as fans in order to judge this team, is consistency. Because we saw Sean Payton's 7-9 teams, and we saw those Sean Payton 7-9 teams have fantastic high-scoring games where they looked like the 2011 team or the 2009 team, and then they followed it up with a goose egg. We've seen this team have a great offensive performance, albeit against the Patriots, and then followed up with another game that sends us into shambles. So I'm not ready to give us the label of having gotten it together until I see a repeat performance. And I'm not talking about another performance, because another performance would mean we would get to have a shit performance, and then follow it up with a good performance. No. I need to see this team show that they can do it on a consistent basis, because until they can show some consistency, only until that point will I, in my opinion, say, okay, they've gotten it together. Because if they show up next week against the Bears and lay an egg and let guys like Taylor Badgen hang around, then they haven't gotten it together. And now we're in week 9 and they're still figuring shit out. Because that's the scenario if we don't repeat. If I said it before, if you do something good, do it again. Just that's all we're asking for this team.
Yep. I think maybe there's a big fan expectation that has been kind of rooted in our brain that we're going to see the Breeze Payton offense again.
That's fair. I think, yeah.
And I think our expectations are a little crazy. I think this was a season where we all believed we would struggle for a period at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, we all said it.
Right. We all said it. So
yeah.
I think we were all on the same page, and I was like, this season is going to depend how quickly we go. And I think we all thought we'd get going a little quicker than we have.
Yeah.
Obviously. And it hasn't been perfect, but I think it's okay to be encouraged, but also understand that we're not going to be scoring 38 a game. Like, that's not going to be what we do.
Yeah.
If we can score 26, 24 on a consistent basis and keep that defense in good situations and them off the field for good periods of time, it's going to be a good team. Yeah. And it's going to be, in our division, when we were talking about the hope that you brought up, the hope is the division. And look what the division did. Tampa lost. Atlanta lost
NFC
again.
South did NFC South things. And I'll even amend my statement to this. Like, when I say if you did something good, do it again. Because it would be a lot, like you said, that's probably the ceiling we're going to get from Carr. If he plays better than how he did against the Colts, then that will be surprising and great all at the same time. So I'm not going to say if you did something good, do it again, as in go do the same exact Colts performance again, but at least do good again. Like, don't follow this up with a Bucs game. Don't follow this up with the shit that we've seen. Like, if we go back to going over in the red zone after this game, then we're right back where we started when the Twitter streets were in shambles. Just follow up a good performance with just a good performance. Not record-breaking, not the best ever, just good performance. And if you can even get 3 in a row, that'd be even better. So if I see good back-to-back, then I'll say, yep, maybe they did figure something out.
Yeah, like for me, I'm not buying in until I see, as Corey said, a repeat good performance. Like, I need to see them do it this week against the Bears and the following week against the Vikings. Like, this team has to be 6-4 going into the bye week, where you got Atlanta next on deck, where you can go ahead and take firm control of the NFC South. They have to win the next 2 games.
Yeah.
There's no excuse not to.
I agree with that.
I mean,
I want to say that the offense last 4 games, we had the game where we missed 2 field goals and we failed in the red zone at the end of the game too, and only scored 13. That's a bad offensive performance. The other 3 games, 34, 24, 38. Those are not bad offensive performance. Could it have been better for sure in the Jacksonville game? Absolutely, could have been better.
Yeah.
But that's 34, 24, 38. That's 30 a game.
Well,
I know we're throwing out the worst game, and that's not really good statistics. I'm just saying, in 3 of the 4,
I think that's what like market research surveys do, right? They throw out the best and the worst. So.
3 of the 4 were good offensive games. 400 yards,
Yeah.
24 points is a good offensive game. Is it great? No, but it's good. And I think my personal opinion, I would agree 100%. Until we see them convert in the red zone and on those third downs, like 50% like we did yesterday, I'm not a believer in the offense as an efficient unit. But what I can say is what we saw the last 4 games is completely different than what we saw the first 4 games. And that's what's encouraging to me.
Yeah, and it comes down as well to this, and we said it after the Titans game, because and the thing I liked the most was, it's kind of a mouthful, but timeliness. The timeliness of the good offensive plays. The offense wasn't particularly great from a statistical standpoint in game 1, but they made the right plays when we needed the right plays. And we were extremely encouraged by how we did. I mean, not granted, the offensive line looked like a freaking turnstile,
and that's a huge issue in those first 4 games.
But overall, when we needed a first down, when we needed a touchdown, or whatever it was to close it out from an offensive perspective, we got it when we needed it. I saw that again yesterday versus the Colts. Our games that were shit, I mean, Packers game being Exhibit A, when we needed it, we failed at every single turn. So if I see another game, I don't care if our offensive yards dip below 400. If our defense holds the other side to the requisite, 250, 350, and we're at 379, but we're getting the first down needed when needed. We're getting the touchdown needed when needed to close it out, or shit, even if we're getting into field goal range and maybe Groupie makes a clutch kick first in his career, then I'll be good. It's like, just do it when you have to do it.
Yeah. And I would say, in my opinion, our worst unit this year is not our offense, it's special teams.
No,
that is our worst unit. It is bad.
It looks
It started off with Shaheed fumbling the opening kickoff in game 1.
Dude.
And then you got the punter who's statistically the worst in the league, and then Groupie not making a single clutch hit.
Brzee again this week.
We have
again, we've lined up over the center twice. It cost us 4 points this week. That's just
I hated that call too, but I get it. It's the rule.
It's a stupid rule. I said the same thing.
It's a stupid rule,
stupid
but it's
rule.
the second time this season
that
he's
done it.
flagged for it.
Yeah. And, and talk about the punting, it's like, not only do we have this horrible, punting statistics, I mean, our last 2 punters are out there killing it. I mean, Morstead, they're about to build a statue to Thomas Morstead in New York for calling it the best punting performance in NFL history. Maybe it was.
He had 11 punts for 550 yards and 4 inside the 20.
I didn't even realize, because I didn't pay much attention to the game, but I listened to the radio on the way to work, and I hear that there were 24 combined punts in that game, and we're getting off track with
New
that.
York,
but it's just
your football teams are doing real well, by the way. Y'all are killing it.
New York football looking about as good as their Subways. But, no offense to anybody that takes them every day that might be listening. But, yeah, I mean, I just want to see us do well again on offense. Just make the timely plays. When you need it, don't give the ball back to the other team to give them a chance. If you need a 4-minute drive to eat some time off the clock in the fourth quarter, go get that 4-minute drive. You've got the personnel to do it. Which makes me brings me to another point. You know who I liked out of this game, who didn't really seem to have a huge role per
Jamal
se?
Williams.
But Jamal Williams had 5 yards per carry in this game, and he looked like he was having a blast out there, and I loved to see that.
And again, that's another guy before the season we said was a big difference maker, and then the injury, and he hasn't looked normal until this week.
Yeah, I mean,
I told Max, this is the first game we've had everybody.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about at the beginning of the episode. This is the first game where we had a full complement of
Kamara was there.
We didn't have baby Jesus tight end Jimmy Graham.
But we had Juwan back, and he's the starter. First game with Juwan, AK, Jamal, Kendre, Mike Thomas, Olave, Shaheed. First game.
And I think Juwan's going to get better. There was one play I saw in slow-mo, again, watching it on my phone in the car, I think maybe right before we stopped at Buc-ee's. But Carr threw it into the end zone at Juwan. And at first, I'm like, there's his dumbass pass of the game.
He catches that 3 out of 4, man.
And then they showed in slow-mo. And, yeah, it was double coverage, but it was put on the only spot that it could have been put. I mean, it was a damn good pass.
Even AK said, we see him catch that pass every time in practice. He said it in the press conference, like, I expect him to catch that ball. That's what he said.
And it just kind of struck me as like, that is a, again, fan take. Never played tight end in the NFL, but believe it or not. But it looked like a first game back type of play for Juwan.
Yeah, and he's going to catch those. And the reason I like that throw, and I told Max, maybe it's a foot low, but both defenders' backs were to Carr, and he put it right between their helmets. It's right where it needed to be. It was
almost like
pass.
he watched the JT O'Sullivan video, because that was exactly one of the things that obviously he didn't, and I hope to God that Carr did not. But just putting that out
we
there.
We don't need him taking advice from JT.
Because, that's a whole different thing. But
thank God that mini bye week is over with, because those 10 days were fucking awful.
That was the longest. I mean, it felt like a double full bye week. Like, it just felt like so much more time than it was, because it was just, you end on a shit game like that. Whatever. Say what you want about the offense in the fourth quarter against the Jags. You end on the loss the way we lost to the Jags. And
brutal. It's a brutal loss.
And, again, the worst case scenario, because it's not like we just got blown. If we got blown out, okay, maybe we're making changes. Maybe there's, like, whatever.
Back to Carr on that, though. Perfect drive, right? Perfect drive. Drives it straight down. Need a touchdown. Drops it right in. And we don't get it. But one more thing.
We did bury we did, for those who didn't listen to our last episode, because it was posted on a Saturday, we did actually hold a burial service for the Saints-Jags game, because it's been dissected more than enough. So we're technically going to bury it.
Okay, bury it. No more talking about it.
No more talking. The one thing I think we should probably at least mention, and Max can run with this how he wants, because we talked about it a little, is the last 3 games have been the 3 worst games of the defense in a row.
Yeah.
So is that something to worry about or not? And I sent some stat I saw today that we're the worst sack percentage team, or 30th, sorry, not worst, but 30th best sack percentage team. And I read another article where someone said this Saints team has the ability to go on a run. Pass rush is a big problem. Mm-hmm. They need to make a move and go get another pass rusher.
Yeah, I think short answer to worry about it is yes, but I'll go to Max on.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. I'm definitely worried about it. The only person who's giving us consistent pass rush right now is Granderson. Everybody else has been basically non-existent in the last few games. And obviously it's frustrating to watch the defense spot the other team 17 points basically in the first half, the last couple of weeks, because that's putting extra pressure on the offense when they don't really need any more pressure on them at this point. Like the way the fan base has been on their ass, and I would assume the coaching staff and front office guys have been on their ass as well during practice, this team needs all the help it can get. So the defense, now that the offense is showing signs of life, the defense really needs to kick it up a notch.
Yeah.
We need to see Cam Jordan getting some pressure. It was encouraging to see Foskey get in the game, and he had I want to say he had a forced fumble.
Yeah.
And
called back. It was called back.
But still, he made the play.
Split second away, and you're talking about a strip sack from Foskey.
For a touchdown.
Yeah. Seeing that was very encouraging. And look, man, there's room for him to get playing time. Because the only person, you can look at and say, as far as the defensive ends are concerned, he's performing. Everybody else, there's room for improvement.
Absolutely.
Brazil's he's gotten off to a good start. But I think he's hitting a little bit of a rookie wall at this point and having some, we've touched on the special teams gaffes that he's had this season.
But mental stuff he's got to figure out.
I think you're seeing from Brazil, like the effort plays, like you can't stop that guy's motor. Like that guy's run. He chased down Minshew out of the pocket again. Not again, but like another quarterback that Brazil is going step for step with out of the pocket from a defensive tackle position. But like you said, it's the finer points for Brazil, I think.
Yeah, but to answer the original question, yes, I am concerned about the way the defense is performing. And, I agree with what Nick said. We should really target a pass rusher, by the trade deadline tomorrow.
So my question to that, because I agree, I mean, we need some extra juice in there. Or just a, maybe not a backup plan per se, but just like, kind of like, if we could only get the defensive line / edge equivalent of what we saw out of Jalen Smith in the preseason, right? Because, like, he comes in, and you're just like, holy shit, who is this guy playing with his head on fire?
You know one thing I want to see?
There's no place for him in our linebacking core.
Yeah.
But I would
be
love
on
to
third down. So do you remember a few years ago when DA moved DeMario to edge rush? If you had Jalen and you could put Jalen in DeMario's spot and bring DeMario down to rush on the other side of Granderson on clear passing downs.
Or better yet, is there anyone on our defensive line rotation who's active every Sunday that Jalen Smith could take the place of just for pass rushing only? Is there anyone in our current defensive rotation that you would say, I'd rather, like, it wouldn't be Roach. I don't know if it'd be Passignon because when Granderson went down, we needed Passignon there.
You need all of them.
I mean, you need all of them. They're bringing more to the table than Jalen Smith.
But my point is, like, I would love it if there was just a way within reason, because again, like once Gale opens up it's not Gale, but once Mickey decides he's going to punch in the code to open up the vault of draft picks,
let's drop the fullback.
We don't trust what he's doing, so it's like he might give away all the whatever. I mean, that's a slippery slope to talk about Mickey Loomis and draft picks. But what I'm saying, it would just be amazing is if we had the defensive line equivalent of what we saw Jalen Smith come in, and just a defensive lineman from outside coming in with his hair on fire would be fucking amazing.
Well, let me say this, though. Before we make any jokes about Mickey giving stuff away, the midseason trades usually work out well for us.
Yes,
whether
just the draft.
It's the draft. Exactly. Quan Alexander.
That was great. Yeah.
Jack Rabbit as a cornerback, late in the season.
Yep.
Like, we do well on these trades.
Roby, right? No, we signed him.
Because we've given away negligible draft picks.
Negligible.
Yeah.
And the performance we get in return has been fantastic.
Yeah.
So the Mickey Loomis burning draft picks analogy does not apply with in-season trades.
I'm happy.
So if they were to make a trade by tomorrow's deadline, for a defensive end, I would probably feel pretty damn good about it. Not even knowing who the player is right now, like I would probably feel pretty good about it because we usually do well on those moves.
So follow-up question to that is you would feel pretty damn good about it if it was a what round picked or higher?
Fourth or later.
Yes.
Okay. So you would be okay with a fourth?
Well, here's the deal. We don't have a third or a fourth right now. So, no, I mean, we have a first,
we don't have a
second, 2 fifths.
We got 2
a
seconds,
6.
right? Or
no, we only have 1.
The Peyton one's the only one we have?
That's it. No, that's going to be a damn good one. But
was that part of the Olave thing? What was that second? Where'd that go?
I believe it was the Olave one. Yes.
Probably. When in
yes,
doubt.
The second round pick.
Because it was a third. The first trade was a third the previous year, then a second and a third and like a sixth.
Hey, regardless, we don't have it.
That's fine.
So we have a first, a second. Do not touch those.
God, no.
Do not touch
There's
those.
no one out there right now. Worth
Exactly.
That. Yeah.
We don't have a third or a fourth.
But
you can fuck with the fifths all the way down all you want.
You could also do a fourth the following year. Like if someone's salary dumping somebody, anything's on the table.
There's only one team I hope we don't even open the phone lines to. And that's took the words out of my mouth because good God.
If Howie Roseman calls up, hang up the phone.
Like someone should take Mickey's phone right now and put in blocked, do not answer, whatever the hell.
I think Mickey actually made a joke about that a couple of months ago. He's like, I think I'm going to go ahead and block his phone number.
Yeah, he should. Yeah, that's.
You think we got it back? Go look what the Titans did with their trades.
That's what
AJ Brown and Byard and like, oh my God.
I mean, the common denominator is Howie Roseman fleecing other GMs.
What is Howie? Does he just have like a black book on every GM? I mean, like, good Lord.
But he hasn't won a title since Nick Foles, so all that fleecing everybody hasn't turned into anything.
Well, he's putting together. Whatever we could get. Yeah. Anyway,
that being said, if we make a trade tomorrow for a defensive end, or let's say an edge rusher, I'll be happy.
Yeah, and tomorrow.
I don't think any other position other than offensive lineman, but teams are not giving away offensive line help at this point.
And if you're listening,
you shouldn't be too concerned after the last couple of weeks. I think we're okay.
Injuries, health is what concerns me with those guys.
I hear you, but the bigger need, I think, we are 30th in pass rush, essentially. Yeah. I mean, we've got to get better.
Yeah, and so we are recording this on October 30th, so it's possible that by the time you're listening to this, maybe the deadline is come and gone, and maybe we're fantastically Nostradamusing this, or maybe we're dead wrong and we just said pat. But either way, we're on the deadline, so we're gonna see something we're not.
Real quick before we close it out, do you want to look at the predictions we had or no?
Yeah. So turning to the predictions.
Well, we all predicted a win, so we
all hit there.
We all did that. Let's see. So Nick predicted Saints 27,
10-point win, I think.
Colts 17. Your offensive MVP was Carr / you went with co-MVP Carr Olave, so we'll give you one of the two.
He gets a half a point on that one.
You get a half point.
I'm not taking credit for Olave.
Look,
that was terrible.
270 out of Carr. You got the over on that. Olave,
I said 100.
Went 100. Over didn't hit on
close.
that one. Defensive MVP Cam Jordan. Another no.
Ugh. We both missed
That
on
was
that
a
one.
no.
He looked like he was pushing a little bit.
What was his
better,
final
but
stats, though? Do you know?
He had I think he had 4 tackles at least. But
He did get a tackle for loss. I remember.
I thought
Max,
they were going
there's
to
one.
credit him with a half sack, but they didn't.
They didn't, but he did.
But I thought he was in on it.
They gave it all to Granderson, which
Yeah.
I'm fine with. But Cam did impact that.
He wasn't
play.
a most valuable player. I'll just give him a player.
He had 4 tackles. That's it. He didn't give him a tackle.
Yeah.
I thought he had a run play where he stuffed one on the.
He gets a half a point
I
for
think
Carr.
I think he showed up.
Yeah.
There's been games where we could say Cam didn't.
Who's the clear defensive MVP? Is it just a Debo because he picked one off? Because Demario
but
played very well.
If you saw the stats on his coverage grades, Adebo's coverage grades were pretty
It's probably a Debo.
crazy. I put before mine. Max, you had 24-21 Saints. Offensive MVP being Kamara. I think is a good argument. Well, I think a lot of people.
I'm getting no. I'm taking a half a point for that one because
Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, Kamara.
to be fair, there were 3 MVPs, 3 offensive MVPs in this game. and
Carr,
to me, they're all
Taysom, then
equal.
Kamara.
Exactly. All 3 of them deserve equal, I guess, points with this. So if you want to say, Nick and I were both the third right on that.
Yeah.
Defense, I know I took Cam Jordan. That's a miss. We'll go ahead and say Adebo was the defensive MVP. What did I
Now,
have for the score?
You were actually spot on.
Lattimore gave
Wait,
up 0 catches and had 9 tackles.
Let me give Max some credit here because Max, Nick, you're the stats guy.
Yeah.
How many touchdowns did Kamara have?
2.
How many rushing did he have?
1.
How many receiving did he have?
1.
That is exactly what Max Ortiz predicted before the
There you go.
game.
Boom, boom, boom.
He said Kamara is going to be my offensive MVP. I think he's got 2 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing. So congrats, Max. I think that's about the most spot-on thing anybody said. Moving to my predictions, I said 28-21 Saints. Everyone said, really, does the defense, does the special teams get a touchdown? I said, nope, I'm feeling – I almost went with 1 defensive special teams, but I said, you know what? No. We'll go off. Offense gets 4 touchdowns. I guess I should have went with 5. But, but my MVPs were – well, my offensive MVP was way off. I mean, Olave, meh. But, again – I made my piece on Olave in the beginning of the episode. I'm not going back there.
If you're taking credit, I get credit, so you don't want to do that.
Yeah, I'm not going back there.
Neither one of y'all get credit for that.
I'm not taking credit. I was not happy.
I don't
Olave doesn't get credit. Neither of you motherfuckers get credit.
I don't get any percentage points for Olave. I get it. If anything, they could probably get negative for the helmet catch.
He was probably the worst skill position player on the field. for
If
the
a ball
Saints.
hit you in the face for a touchdown, you were not good.
Well, to his credit, it was not the face; it was the top of his head. But point taken.
Okay, my point
it looked
is
like a face. It looked
Michael
like
Thomas outperformed
Hit
him.
up the
Rashid
noggin.
Shaheed outperformed
I'm not
him.
arguing
Taysom
it.
Hill
I'm not-
outperformed him.
I'm not arguing it.
Kamara outperformed him.
Real-
Jamal Williams outperformed him.
Uncle, I'm not
Who
arguing
was your
it.
defensive
Yeah.
MVP?
I had Granderson.
Okay,
So
he got
had
the sack.
and I said he was going to have a sack, probably at least.
I
said
think a
one.
Debo.
So defense is tough. So
I was good on my stats for Granderson. I said he's going to have a sack. He's going to have at least 1 or 2 tackles for loss.
on who?
On Granderson.
Granderson, okay.
Did I say I meant Granderson? Yeah. So, I mean, I think Max gets – I'll take my credit for the Saints' 4 touchdown prediction when they scored 5. I'll give you a hell of a lot of credit for Max for Kamara. You hit his touchdown spot on by saying rushing and receiving. Nick, Carr, over 270. So I think, look, this is why this is one of the best podcasts out there you can listen to right now, because we all had some reason to be completely spot on, right? Am I right?
Hey, and the best part about it was driving back from the beach. We were all leaving Destin around the same time. Nick and I we conferred about our bets on the day.
Yeah.
For about 45 minutes in the car leading up to the game.
Yeah.
And we were both firmly on the car is going to have a big game train. So
Yeah. I mean, and I'll give my
between the two of us, we won about $300 on the game, just specifically on cars. So it was a good day.
shout out to my friend Eric Wilderauder, who y'all met this weekend. He even said it. I didn't, do it, but it was like, "You're really picking the Saints to have 4 touchdowns?" I was like, "I just did," and he goes, "You're probably going to get like 680 plus 680 on those odds." I didn't even.
You should have gone for it.
I was getting out of the house and
He couldn't
got
bet
on the
from
road.
Florida,
and
man.
by the
It's not
time
legal.
I was
It's not
in the
legal.
car,
Got to make the phone call, man, just like I did.
Got to call Alex.
I don't
Call
even-
Alex when you need.
I don't
a,
even know
you need
how
a
that.
bet
I don't
made.
even know how that shit works. But
So real quick, back to defensive MVP, just to wrap it up. DeMario
Yeah.
had 12 total tackles, 6 solo, 1 pass defense. Lattimore gave up 0 catches, 9 solo tackles, which is kind of insane. Pass defense and a tackle for loss. Granderson, 6 tackles, 3 of them solo, 1 sack, which is his tackle for loss. Then Adebo, the other candidate, was 3 tackles, all solo, 3 passes defense and an interception.
I'm going to Debo because that interception was clutch because it
They
looked
were about
like
to
they
kick
were
a field
going
goal.
in
They were about to
and
kick
they
a
were
field
going to
goal.
score, and it was before halftime. So to me, it's clearly a Debo from the timeliness. You know, your favorite word from earlier.
Yep.
The
Didn't we go
timeliness.
get points there too?
yeah, we scored off that turnover.
We did.
Absolutely.
We did,
I
yeah.
remember
That was huge.
Noting
It's
that.
a Debo. It's a Debo.
Yeah, because that was the difference between the game being like a tennis match versus
Exactly.
just close it out.
Exactly.
You know.
Last thing I'm going to say, and then we're closing it out, is I sent Max a text about Alante, and we've been raving about him. Turns out, in the slot, he's given up the most catches, the most yards, and the most touchdowns this year in the entire league.
Oh God, I was waiting for you to say like NFC South or
So
No,
maybe that's
he's been
something we need
getting
to worry
roasted.
about. Maybe he is an outside corner because he's obviously a playmaker. Maybe that's something we need to worry about along with the pass rush.
maybe we can touch on our thoughts on the defense moving forward in our
Next episode.
preview pod.
Yeah.
because I think there's some meat on that bone. So this was a very thorough recap, but worthwhile because, like we said, we're going to enjoy this win. Looking forward and hoping, now that Hope has re-entered the chat, per Nick, that we do it again.
Per all of us. It's
Per
back
all
in
of
the
us.
chat.
It's
Yeah.
back in the chat. Hope is back in the chat, which is good. I mean, allegedly good, but it's here. It's here. It's here. Okay, so next one up is the preview pod. Bears coming to the Dome. We got a little meetup going on with our friends over at Saints Block Party Podcast and a lot, but they're bringing in Saint City and me, Mike and Dan, a bunch of people that we know, so we're looking forward to that as well. So shout out to them. But until next time, thanks again for listening to another episode of the 28-3 podcast.
What a comeback!